Hmm. Hi, hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am the faith-based counselor, um, and today I want to do. Sorry, I want to do a movie review, and is it just I'll be doing movie review, movie discuss now. Maybe if I talk about this, I feel like if I talk about it, I'll stop watching it or repeat. And it's a movie, a Chinese movie, what they call Chinese mini dramas. Um, like when if you have been watching Chinese mini dramas like I have, just don't always be prepared for pleasant surprises along the way. Not all of them are grand and amazing and all of that, but there are some that have really what I will call I added it to my playlists, but because it has been removed on YouTube, so it was also removed from my playlist as well. So it's on my playlist movies that have more positives in it than negative. Like meaning I don't completely like the movie, but I like the movie or the this mini drama better than like a lot of the ones I have watched. And the movie is by the male lead is acted by Zhao TingYi, um, and the female lead is Deng. Let me not even try to go into her name. I don't think I remember, but I remember her name. First name is Deng. Um, I might not have said it correctly in the Chinese form, but I pronounced it with English intonation. So the title is it has two people, it doesn't have a specific title. But if you search Zhao Qingyi, you might find it. And it's some titled it She's the One, and some titled it My One and Only. So I think you can find that if you type in My One and Only Chinese drama, you would find it on Daily Motion, I believe. So because that's where I've been watching it now since it has been removed from YouTube. And I've been watching it on repeat because it's that good. The dynamics of the story is beautiful. It's very different. Like it's not typical. The male lead is also very fresh. Let me put it that way. Fresh in the first sense that he's not a well-known face, but he acted his role well. He has the features. It's not the type, like, of course he's much younger than the role he played. I believe his real age is 30 something, 35 or thereabouts. He's in his mid 30s, but the role he played was that of someone who in his 40s. And it's about a is this hurt me and I marry your father kind of story line. But this one is very, very different, very matured, like very mature. The female lead was the heroine of the story, very matured. The man also very matured. Like there was deep understanding. Like they understood each other. The villains stayed villains, and the good people stayed good. Let's put it that way. And it started with this. I think for those who are, if you are not familiar with Chinese mini dramas, it always more than half of Chinese mini dramas has the drugging scene in it where somebody is, you know, somebody's drink or food had been spiked with an aphrodisiac, something that makes them feel very sexual, let's put it that way. And they stumble into a room somewhere and practically like drag this man or this woman, whoever the case may be, to get them to have sex with them. So they're in a sexual daze, let's put it that way, in a sexual euphoria based on the spiking that their food has been given. Sometimes they spray it, but usually it's each drink. So she had been. So it starts with the story where she was drugged, and you know she wound up in the hotel room or suite, if you may, of her father-in-law, her would-be father-in-law. And it so happens that, you know, it was something else. And that was her first, the man in question was her first. They don't know each other from anywhere. But I think the man was sober, although he was drinking wine. I think they also kind of indicated that he himself was not completely in his full senses. But as the story progresses, you realize that he's somebody that is in control of himself a lot. So what I would take from that part where he could have called the doctor and he did not was that he was in a vulnerable state himself. He might not have been drugged in quotes, but he was probably very lonely. He was very vulnerable, and here stumbles while in his room. A beautiful young woman stumbled in and was practically begging him for sex. Practically. And he was just not in the right frame of mind to even think of I don't want to do this, let me call a doctor. But if you have watched that, they don't normally, nobody is that sensible enough to call a doctor most of the time, you know. Anyway, so yeah, that happened. And she woke up before him, and she was appalled by what had happened, so she left. She was like, oh my God, what am I going to tell my boyfriend and stuff like that. Meanwhile, the said boyfriend, who happens to be the son of the man she had just had what you can call one night stand, although I can't call that one night stand, because for one night stands you kind of know what you are getting into, but this one, she was unaware, like she wasn't really in her senses when this whole thing happened. So she left. And meanwhile, the boyfriend that she was still like, oh my God, what she's going to tell her boyfriend, this, that, and the third, was screwing her so-called best friend in the same hotel where she had her drink had been spiked. So same night, same hotel, father and son were in the same hotel. The son having was screwing his girlfriend's best friend, while his father was unknowingly in bed with his girlfriend. Like, what the freaking heck? That's mind bending, but you have to go and watch it if you are that interested. What I like about the story, though, is not the like I said, is one of the on my playlist, but it's not there anymore. Like I said, more positives than negatives, but that was the negative right there. And for her, it was really crazy because everyone that she knew betrayed her. And then life started for her when she met this complete stranger who she was probably seeing for the first time. And this man brought so much light into her life. They brought light into each other's life, as a matter of fact. However, their connections, what they were connected with by family, the fact that she is his son's girlfriend, put him in a very interesting situation. And he tried, in his case, he tried to, like, okay, since she, because he tried to, like, okay, he tried to, like, maybe gauge her emotions, where she is. Maybe she's somebody that, he wanted to know who she was, like, because she's a young girl, she's a student, and he wanted to make sure that if she was a loose cannon, let's put it that way, he can control the situation and it will not come back in the future to come and haunt him. So he did his investigations, found out, I mean, she dropped her ID, so he was able to find out things about her, and and she just told him, sorry, like, I don't need you to take responsibility for me. I have someone I'm in a relationship with. Like, what happened between us was an accident. It was never meant to happen. We don't even know each other, so please don't mention that again. And I think for him, for a man like that, who is like one of the top three powerful men in that particular city, who women from high society ladies are probably like hitting, going to any length just to be his wife or his girlfriend or something. And this student just told him off. I think he found that kind of refreshing. But I think more than that, I don't think he saw it as just a challenge, as someone told him no. I think it's just that he's drawn to her in a way he's never been drawn to a woman before, because from that story you could tell that he's not a player. He's not a he's not a womanizer or somebody that stays around women. He's a low ranger. He walks alone most of the time, so he's not one to be with women, that must be with women or around women. Like, it's either he's doing business, he's doing work, and he's around his staff. That's about it. So you can tell that he's probably like one of those people that have high respect for his body, and I think I appreciate that in a man. A man that is not sharing himself everywhere because he can afford to, or because he has the position and the power to do so. No, someone who has respect for his body, who has respect for himself. He doesn't just share himself with people just like that. So that was a plus for him, and the fact that he's not one who, under normal circumstance, will go after a young girl, right? Someone probably a little younger than his son, there is that part. And so he found himself drawn to her. But when he found out that she was his son's girlfriend, and he also knew that his son was not being faithful to his girlfriend, he told him, like, if you really want to marry this girl, like, stop this game you are playing, like this one that you are sleeping with other women outside, and you are including, like, cut the orders, like the orders. And he's like, and he was even lying to his father. Of course he would lie. Somebody who would do something like that would lie. And the father was like, do you really think there is something that I want to know that I can't find out and stuff? But he didn't listen. And so circumstances, I don't want to give the whole story. Circumstances put them in a situation where they got married. And for her, it was contracts for her. But for him, it was like the woman he wants to be with. But circumstances could not. And then, because he's a businessman, a very successful one at that, he's somebody that met wealth in the family and he grew it. So men like that, I've done a podcast audio on my take on single rich men, and the negative stereotypes, and shall we say the negative perspectives that I had about them, and why some women avoid them and stuff like that. Seeing a movie depicts a man that is just he's not arrogant, he's not proud, although the way he carries himself, I think, is an unconscious grace. It's not something that he does deliberately. It's just how he is. There are some people like that. They are very, when you get to know them, you realize that they are very down to earth, very humble, very generous, incredible people, and all of that, which his wife found out that was what he was. He wasn't a proud person, but he knew who he was. He's confident in himself and all of that. But the way he moves, he moves like a king. And it's not deliberate, it's an unconscious grace he has, right? And so you find that, he, I guess at his age, with all that money, someone who is always alone. Like I said, the beginning of that story tells, for me, it says a lot about a man who has, I mean, he was looking out on the at the city. He was standing at one of those buildings where an entire wall or a part of the wall is glass, and you can just see the city from where. So he was just standing looking at the city, and it just tells you, it depicts a man who, like, that city is his oyster. Like, he is a kind of lord in that city, but he's also very much alone by himself. And so it shows a man who has everything at his fingertips, the best dining, best everything, great family, but he's lonely. He doesn't have a partner, he doesn't have a wife. And you know how it is, when a man has power, he has money, he's from a wealthy family, an influential family. It's kind of hard to tell who is real. But he has a good intuition, right? So the first woman that he has been drawn to, at least for a very long time, was this young lady who happened to be in love with his son. But now we have talked about the man, let's talk about the girl. I like her vibe. Like, I totally like her vibe. Usually they go for, when it comes to issues of age dynamics here, where the woman is younger, like, barely in her 20s, as it is, barely 20, just barely above 18. They show them as very naive. They portray them, and frankly speaking, let's be honest, a lot of teenagers and between 18 and 24, they're kind of naive about a lot of things. They think they know, but they don't. There's still a lot in their emotions. They haven't seen much of life as much. And even for those who have seen life, they still have this belief that things will just fall into place, everybody will just behave themselves and all of that. And they don't know how to defend themselves. But I love the way they portrayed the the woman here, the heroine in this story, the female lead, how they portrayed her. Like, she was very matured. She knew, she was not afraid to defend herself. She was also very smart. Like the part where, in some other stories where they will show the teenagers being very impulsive, she's not. She's impulsive but with wisdom. You get what I mean? Like, she thinks things through. Even though she acts impulsively, she thinks things through, and you can tell that she covers most of her bases, right? And so you have a situation where, you know when she knew, when she was betrayed by her family, she had recorded it before she pounced on her sister and gave her, like, it was a girl fight, hair pulling, like she knelt on that girl and was pulling her hair and banging her head. It was really like she went for her. And of course, when they were confronted and they tried to deny, she just said, I recorded it. I was like, you go, girl. Like, this is the first time I've seen where somebody would not just start fighting someone without having evidence of what they are fighting them for. You know what I mean? Like, I love that about that. Highly intelligent, and stuff. Somebody who is proactive like that. And so she's also not impulsive. She's not the, okay, you hurt me, I will marry your father kind of thing. No. For her, she felt like, I like the highlights in the story, because even when this, her the first her first, let's put it that way, is very interesting. The first man she fell in love with was the son, but the first man she had a skin to skin with was the father. you know and I think he fell in love with her, literally. And if you look at the story, you find out why. He had seen her somewhere before, and he had the same kind of reaction towards her, like he was drawn. They were talking, I mean, he was at a negotiation table. They were talking about a billion, I don't know what currency, a billion, like a business deal that would net him billions. And Baba went and was looking at a woman that was playing music somewhere. That was where his eyes just went and he just stayed there like he was drawn, and so for him, it wasn't just the moment. Yes, he was caught in a moment, but at the same time, he is really drawn to her. Like he's never been drawn to any woman before. I mean, even if his right hand man said, I've never seen this man look at any woman like this before. So for him, he fell in love, all right? He fell in love, but she was not in love with him because she was in love with someone else. And, you know, when things happened, she didn't say, oh, I'm going to get revenge on this man for doing this to me and just marry his father kind of thing. Although the man suggested it. And she was like, I am not going to, my marriage is very important to me. It's my happiness we are talking about here. My marriage, I'm not going to waste it, using it to seek revenge. Like, anyone that hurts me is not worthy of that. But she found something else that was worthy of her actually needing to marry the man, because she needed someone really powerful to actually help her with something that was really of utmost importance to her. And so she found herself suggesting marriage and said, once I get what I need, I'll be out. But he seized the opportunity because he felt that he could convince her, like maybe if she gets to know him, she would choose to stay. And she did eventually. A lot of beautiful things happened. They got to know each other. It was really beautiful to watch the interactions between them and all of that. And I love the fact that he trained her. You understand? He let her be, he let her shine. The things that she could not do because her boyfriend was like, oh, you don't need to work, you don't need to do all of those things, you have me, I'm from a rich family kind of thing. This man, who is the head of his family, was that you can do whatever it is you want. Like, you are not under any restraint and all of that. You can do whatever it is you want, and that's a beautiful thing. I love the fact that they portrayed a marriage where she was free, because she was into the arts, she likes to dance, she loves dancing. And so for a man who of his status to be so secure enough to not have a problem with his wife being a dancer, it's, well, classical dance, but still, it shows a lot of maturity on his part. But you can see that, because he's not the type to go after young women. I don't think he's had many women in his life to even start with. You understand? So, like, we can they don't tell us his experience with women before he met her, but you can tell that he probably never even had more than two women. From the way he is not, like, for him, it's like, when I choose somebody, it is for life. And I'm just highlighting some of the really movie quotes that I really love in that story, where you see a man say, you know what, I will be your greatest support. I would there will be no betrayal, because he knows that, well, she was betrayed, which was how he could even have a chance to even marry her to start with, right? And it was like, there'll be no betrayal. And for him, that was easy, because he wasn't a womanizer. He wasn't somebody that must have a woman in his life to feel he's a man. His manliness was not dependent on having any kind of woman in his life. He felt like, if I don't like you enough to want to marry you, I don't see any reason spending time with you, right? Kind of thing. So, such that everybody was surprised when because you can tell that that is his lifestyle. Everyone was surprised when they saw a woman around him, because it was very rare. Like, even the son was like, I've never seen a woman with my father before. That sounds kind of odd, right? And the mother freaked. Can you imagine a mother freaking because she did not know that her son had a woman in his life? Do you know how rare it is for a mother to know that, if her son had a woman in his life, it's because it's a woman he really, really likes. Because if he doesn't like her, he does not move close to women he does not like, which is rare, right? So it's like, How come? Like she flew in from wherever it is she was to come and find out, my son has a woman, I don't know about it, and stuff like that. And turns out, yeah, she actually liked the girl, and they bonded. And the guy was surprised when he walked in on them, kicking, and he saw his mother, who is like king of boys. You know what I mean? Like she's the matriarch of both her husband's business and the family, giggling, and he's like, wow, this is interesting. And both of them were laughing, holding hands like two little girls, and he's like, and I think for him, although he had tried not to tell his mother, but his mother found out. When you watch the story, you know how she found out. And when they were talking, he said, I thought you were going to be dissatisfied. He was like, dissatisfied? You, as your age, it's not easy to find a wife for you. He even collects insults on top. And he was like, are you not going to do something to make sure that it's very hard for your wife to not leave and stuff like that? It was a beautiful dynamic, like, and what I see from there is that love is, apart from the fact that love is beautiful, you might not always find it where you're used to, because this young woman, everyone she ever knew in her life, outside of her parents, everyone else betrayed her until she met this man that she had to have a skin to skin with, literally, who shall we say, brought light into her life. And at some point the man said thank you. That point, I'm not going to tell you. You have to go and watch it so that they don't shadow ban my video because they think I gave out all the gist of the movie. Considering the fact that it has been removed from YouTube anyway. So, at some point he said thank you. And here's the thing. For a man who has money, he doesn't need money from you, right? But if you can give him something that he cannot buy, like love, like peace, like something you don't even know you had, I think he just feels complete anytime he's around her. He feels like he has somebody, and for him, that is something he cannot buy. His family can't buy him that. His family name couldn't get him that, right? And just said thank you. And I see that they were the best thing to happen to each other as far as love was concerned. They were in each other's corner, you know. She respects him, and I love the dynamics of this woman's personality. The fact that if anyone talks nonsense, she will slap them. Like she was slapping, and those people deserve the slaps that they were getting because they were being very terrible. These were people that had hurt her and betrayed her, and they still had the nerve to lie to her face about it. But she's not a violent person because she never raised her voice at her husband. She never raised her hand at him as well. Like she talks softly with him, but when she's talking to people that have been very nasty, her voice is not loud, but it becomes very strong, right? Like but with her husband, like, because her husband respects himself and is a respectable man, there was no reason to be aggressive with him, right? He was the best thing to happen to her after her parents. So she was always talking gently with him, like she was able to be soft around him. And I think her name means soft, kind of. She was able to be soft around him, be herself around him, and she doesn't feel like she has to be on guard around him. And it was really beautiful to see that they were each other's partner in more ways than one. He trained her, he taught her how to handle her business. He taught her how to defend herself, which came in handy at the climax of the story and all of that. And these stories, I learned a few things from them. One of the things I learned is that you don't know where love is going to find you. It would, like, love can find you. Like, you can stumble into love. That was what happened with her. She stumbled into love. She could have stumbled into another room with another man. Do you understand? Because the person who spiked her drink was the one that wanted to grape her. But and the plan was that they were going to post it online and all of that stuff, you know. But it failed, and she stumbled into love, literally. She didn't stumble into the wrong room. She stumbled into the room of somebody who was going to be her partner for life, you know, that under normal circumstances she couldn't have met him, because this man is always moving around with like about 20 bodyguards and a convoy. Like, that's how he moves. And because of his businesses, you can understand why he needs all that security. It wasn't doing it because he was, trying to show off and all of that. No, his movement is not in public for everyone to see, right? So, but he's doing it for security reasons and all of that. It's very important for him to move with that. And you can see that this man is not somebody that is doing what he's doing what he's doing out of necessity, not out of status, to show off status and all of that. And sometimes, I was just looking, when I was just thinking about this story, I thought about some men who are still unmarried. Like, they have everything money can buy, but they're still unmarried. They haven't found that person that they feel is that they feel at home with. Let's put it that way. Somebody that they feel complete with, somebody that they feel drawn to, that they're in love with. Not somebody that, by calculation, this person is, from a well-to-do family, brings something to the table, in quotes. No, but somebody who that they feel complete with, that somebody who the feeling they've never felt before, they feel it for this person, right? A feeling of joy, a feeling of being happy, right? And all of that. They haven't met that person yet. And maybe the reason they have not met that person yet is because that person still needs to grow up, because obviously if he married early, he can't even, the person he married is half his age, about that. So he needed to be like, his life, if we're going to look at it from a spiritual perspective, his life had to wait for the girl, for the woman he needs in his life to grow up. That was just what happened there. He needed to. Plus, he had a praying mother. His mother said she doesn't like praying to whatever it is she was praying to. God, I would like to think that she doesn't like to pray to God, and because of his case, she had to pray. Right? That, is this man just going to be alone like this? Isn't he going to find a partner, someone he can call his own and things like that? So he has a praying mother, and her prayer worked. Like, her daughter-in-law is the blast. Okay, she can handle business. She's his match. She's fiery, she's gorgeous, she's young, she's smart, she's intelligent, she's a fast learner, she's respectful. You understand? Like, she's fiery, but she's not the type that, she respects people. That is her first nature. But anyone who disrespects her, she has no mind. She doesn't mind throwing hands. Like, she respects her. Like, when somebody, before she even knew her mother-in-law was her mother-in-law, one girl like that was being rude to an elderly woman, and she did not even allow the older woman to say anything. She just smacked the girl that was rude. Like, have the dogs eaten your manners or something? How can you talk to an elderly woman like that? You know what I mean? Before she even knew that the person in question was her mother-in-law. So that, I think the mother was like, oh wow, I like this girl. Like, it was very beautiful. She she found herself getting married into a family that accepted her wholeheartedly, loved her, trained her, teaches, and she's also teachable, a fast learner and all of that. And it was a case of somebody who has a good personality and finally met people that she can actually live that nice personality with. So um that's the highlight of it right there. And sometimes, you can tell that both of them, they're not the type to go after those who are so far apart from their age, but circumstances threw them together, and you will see that they were actually meant to be with each other, you know. So that title, My One and Only, it tells it a lot, and it could also be called She's the One. So you can go on your Google and search it, and search Zhao TingYi. I might tag the name in the video or something, or write it in the comment section so you can go and find it yourself and watch it. It's really, really, really interesting. You could learn a lot of things from there. So that's it on movie discourse and the review of a Chinese mini drama. So if you want me to do more of this, please mention that in the comment section, like this, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until next time, shalom.